Back in the 90s, Capcom released Street Fighter 2 and it was a massive hit. A diverse cast of recognizable and unique characters, Street Fighter 2 revolutionized the fighting game genre. Wanting to really capitalize on the success, Capcom attempted to squeeze this onto this. Home console ports at the time were known for not being as good as their arcade counterparts, but putting one onto a handheld and taking away the color and most of the buttons? You know a lot of changes were going to have to be made, and changes there were. Dalsum, Vega, and E-Honda had to be scrapped from the Game Boy port. It's also kinda weird that, although it's just called Street Fighter 2 and it uses the box art for Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo, the character portraits and moves come from Super Street Fighter 2. If they couldn't even fit in all the original characters, there's no way that the new challengers were going to make the cut. Of course, having no color is a big downgrade. In mirror matches, there's not even a different shade of gray to separate you from the opponent, which leads into some very confusing moments. There were matches where I straight up thought I won, only to realize that it was the computer who kicked my ass. And remember that this was on the original Game Boy, meaning you needed the best lighting conditions to make out what was going on in that blurry green screen. And it sucks because the game actually looks pretty good, all things considered. By the time the Game Boy Color and its superior screen was released, there were already much better portable fighting games available. On a positive note, the music converted really well to the Game Boy. There was also Super Game Boy compatibility, so if you owned a Super Nintendo, you could play with some nifty backgrounds and a friend on a TV. Perhaps the worst aspect of Street Fighter 2 for the Game Boy is the controls. Sluggish and choppy, it just doesn't feel good to play. For this game to work, 6 buttons had to be spread out over the Game Boy's 2 buttons. Similar to Ryu and Ken in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, depending on how long you hold the button will produce different attack strengths. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo Revival on Game Boy Advance had a similar mechanic and it does the job okay. But when the game just feels like it's being weighed down by lag, it's hard to ever get it just right. And that's the point that seals the deal. You can have manageable graphics and great sound, but Street Fighter 2 for the Game Boy just doesn't play well enough to be worth checking out. Being able to take Street Fighter 2 wherever you go was the appeal, not the game itself. It's a novelty. It was one of those games that if you really wanted to enjoy, it would be better worth your money to save up for the Super Nintendo and a copy of Street Fighter 2 Turbo because the handheld version just isn't worth dropping any significant amount of cash for it. It's funny that it has Super Game Boy compatibility because this would imply that you already have a Super Nintendo. Portable Street Fighter has come a long way. More buttons and better hardware have allowed people to experience these games on the road without taking any significant hit to gameplay. But in terms of where it all started back on the Game Boy, this is a battle best not picking. I'm Boyle for Heroes of Fandom, until next time.